Okay. I'm going to call the Excellence in Student Achievement meeting to order. It is 5:01. Do I have any action on the minutes from August 16th, 23?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Great. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Any discussion?
No.
Okay. All in favor? Unanimous. Great. Thank you. All right. Math textbooks 9 through 12.
All right. So I have a little handout. My only question before we get started is part of it includes Gretchen showing some of how the program works,
Mhm.
and we don't have a dummy student account. So I'm wondering if it probably needs to be a private.
Non-public?
A non-public, we need to go non-public to show that part of it.
It's gonna
Yeah.
actually
Okay, so
show
what we'll do
children.
is we can talk about
This first.
that first, and
Okay.
then when we have to go into a student account, we'll go into non-public, we'll
Okay.
stop the recording.
Yes.
And then once we're done with that, we'll come back out, we can give a little summary, and then we can move on.
Okay.
Does that
Are
work?
we
I think
able
ladies are
to
free to
come
leave,
up, so for parents and community members, they're gonna wanna see it. Is there a way to get a dummy account in the future? So if we're able to share information with community members?
That I don't know, because they all have their child's accounts.
Right,
So
this is
I
for the
don't
math
know.
program that's already,
That we're already using?
that we're already using and
Oh,
have
okay.
been for, this
Correct.
isn't new.
Right,
This
no,
isn't
no.
This
No.
isn't new, so
Okay. well
they
then-
should have access to their own
Alright.
students'
Do you want to have a
accounts.
hold, because I'm feeling a little confined in here.
It's all right.
I just wanted to make sure, like, if parents have questions, you know.
Absolutely.
That
yeah.
So,
Completely understand.
shoot, and then I have to run, and I'll go grab the textbooks. I do have a couple of textbooks to show you too.
Awesome, thank you.
So I'll go grab those when Gretchen gets going.
Okay.
Cause I had them in my office. So I put together just kind of a little, info of how this all came about. After the first year of using the textbooks, and Gretchen, is our math PLC team leader, Gretchen Solomon, and, so, you know, we were talking about the books and how the program's going. We're always like talking about it, working through it. And the department at the beginning of this year really had a concern about the textbooks, the physical books. So I sort of typed it out here for you. So last year, many students didn't return their books back to the library, and some are returned damaged. And I'm gonna go and show you what they look like. Despite notices being sent home, this is our current situation. And just to remind everyone, you know, students won't be able to graduate until they either return the textbook or pay what they owe for the textbook that's in their name. So like there is an end game,
Right,
but it could be a long one. It could be that we don't see any of these Algebra 1 books for 4 years because, or, you know, we can maybe convince them if they truly are like, no, I really did lose it completely, and finally get them, well, you have to pay for it.
Right.
Whether it's now, but we may not get the money for 4 years.
Right. And is there no way to hold them from attending, I know, like prom, homecoming, things like that, without paying fees?
Well,
To
graduate, right.
I mean, because graduation's a long way off for an Algebra
Right.
1 book,
Right.
you know? So I mean, is there a way to change it so that it's, okay, if you don't return this, then you can't go to X, Y, or Z?
Dances. I mean, we can certainly talk about,
Yeah.
you know, having some of those types of incentives for kids to either bring the money that they owe if they truly lost the book or to get the book back.
Right.
Were the notices sent to the caregivers or the kids?
The parents,
Okay.
it was sent through, Alma, through school, you know, the
Yep.
system and stuff. So I wrote down the number of books in each, course that are currently missing and or haven't been returned. So there's a total of 52, and the cost associated with that is a hefty one, right? At $130 a hit is really how much we're losing. That, you know, because I mean it won't cost us, but that's what we're looking at in floating textbooks out and about. So what the math department was proposing would be to keep the books in the classroom so that, and here's the thing with books, they'll come out with a version. So right now we have the most up-to-date version of Reveal Math that they have to offer, right? Of all the courses that you see here. What'll happen, and we also have access to the online subscription for, I believe it's 3 years. Might be 5, but Christine might know better. And what'll happen is in between now in the 3 years, they're working on the next version of the program and the textbook. And eventually the online is going to run out. Just having looked up, gotten quotes in the past from different book companies for online access to materials and books, it's very expensive. We're talking like $5,000-$6,000 for a class set, for 30 subscriptions. It's just, they charge an astronomical amount. It is for a couple years. So what the math department is proposing is that they can maximize using the online programming, and Gretchen's going to be able to show you more about what that looks like, how the teachers get to use it, and the really cool data it shows. And the textbook is online, so the kids can literally click, here's the textbook. It's identical to the textbook they have in class. And they would prefer to utilize the textbook in class. And so a kid would just, okay, go over and grab your book, and the books would stay in class. They wouldn't go home in backpacks. They wouldn't get chocolate milk poured all over them, etc. And then the kids would be able to do their homework using the online stuff at home. So that's sort of what we're proposing. And the justification really is that we'll ensure that we can keep the books in good condition for when the 3 years runs out and we're stuck with the books. And when I go back and grab the books and show you what some of them look like after 1 year, not damaged enough to demand that someone buy it, I don't think. You know, I guess it's typical wear and tear, and I don't know how much we talked about it when we were in the process of getting the books, but it's kind of a reality now that these books are going to get like wear and tear. Now, I think we should maybe think about covering them if we're going to have kids take them home, and you know,
They used to be a homework assignment when we were
right,
kids.
right,
You had to come in with your book covered.
right.
Yes.
Paper bag.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I think we can definitely do some additional things that we may not have done last year to help mitigate and keep them in better condition. But my fear, and I think the fear of the department, is if we just blanket send all the books home, that by the time we really truly need the books because we don't have the online access anymore, and let's pretend that we're not going to be able to renew that or to get the newest version again of the textbooks, which I think included the online access, that we're just going to have the textbooks. Like, that's all we'll have. The other part too is, you know, if a parent really wants a child to have a book at home, then they can check it out. So it would be more of like a, you know, as needed preference basis if a student did need to bring a textbook home, but it wouldn't just be a blanket, let's give everyone a textbook because of sort of the situation we're in. So that's really my part. I would love to turn it over to Gretchen, and I'm gonna go grab those books, and then just be mindful of when we need to, you know, go into, hit pause. So I'm gonna.
Are these high school,
Yeah.
middle school textbooks?
These are high school.
High school, so we're
And how
we're not
many books-
talking about little kids.
Right,
and how
That
many
the
books
parents are
did
probably
we
not helping them with homework.
purchase originally how many books did we purchase for Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry? I was looking at the percentage of books that,
So that I don't know. I
Okay.
believe, I'd have to double check.
Yeah.
From past invoices, but I believe, at least 100.
Oh.
Per section, so at least 100 for each of those, I believe. But I can get you the exact information once I look up, the purchase order on that.
and before we cut the video, we should have an introduction, so everyone out in YouTube land can,
There we go.
Do we need to do the whole RSA?
Yeah.
thing?
yeah, lighter.
I don't know which
Oh, it's on the
RSA.
back.
I don't know which letter.
Or is
but-
it different?
Which
Like,
letter,
it's the
Tom, what letter do we need to go into for non-public? Because we're gonna be showing.
So we're gonna have to go into a student account, so we can't show that, so we're gonna have to pause. Do you know which letter that is?
Is it
We have the RSA, we just don't
Is
have
it
the
different
number.
than the one on the regular agenda?
Tom will find it.
Each letter, it means something different.
Yeah.
Like some is personnel, some is
So
student,
Gretchen,
some is
if you don't
negotiation.
mind, Gretchen, if you don't mind, just giving a brief introduction, so anybody
Okay.
that watches this video later knows who you are and your position and all of that, just so there's clarification.
So my name is Gretchen Solomon. I've been teaching, this is my 17th year, my second in this district. I am local to the community, which is why I wanted to come here. I am the team leader of the math department. And I love this online material and we use it quite a bit. So my overview is going to be what we use as teachers, what we can see as teachers. And then I'm going to show you a student count so you can see what they have access to, as well as what it looks like when they get assignments and different things they can also use if they're stuck at home. Okay. So this is my dashboard page that has all of my classes. I have my Algebra 1s broken out into periods 1 and 3, geometry into periods 2 and 4, and my Algebra 2 honors classes period 5.
So do we need to go into
Yeah,
public?
it's C.
It's C, okay,
Not yet, because she's in her
I'm in
account
mine.
right now.
okay,
So when we get to the student account.
Oh, okay.
Right, so I will make sure I don't click on any assignments, so no grades come up, no names.
Perfect.
So when I go into Algebra 1, I have access to the teacher edition here and the student edition here.
Okay.
These are interactive where students can fill them in, but it doesn't really give them a check of the answers, but there's a way for me to do that with them and I'll show you.
Okay.
So this is just the straight up teachers edition, the straight up student edition. These are 2 assignments that I have assigned. One of them was distributed property practice. The big reason for this was these are freshmen and I'm getting them introduced to the online platform. This one I did today. It's a spiral review formative, and I love these when we get towards the end of a unit, because what it does is it goes back and mixes in questions from the entire unit. And so if I go and look at the scores, if I'm getting some good scores, I know these kids are doing well, but if I see somebody who's not where they should be, that gives me the red flag that I can go and work with them more. I can also break it down to the questions so I can see what questions they actually struggle with. So I know that's a topic I need to go back and revisit before the assessment. Other things we can do. So I am currently teaching expressions involving absolute value is the one I did today. So things that once I go into this, there's several different things I have access to. Remember how I said they could fill in the interactive textbook? All of the examples that are in that textbook are here, and some of them, let's see what this one looks like. This is example 1, and some of them are students working through what might be possible answers and why it's not equivalent or why it is equivalent, and this one is not equivalent because it doesn't meet the criteria and the answer is negative. But students can work through this as an example in the online text if I assign it. Our notes that we use, we spent a lot of time last year creating guided notes for the students in these 3 core classes, and they use these examples and the learns that are here. But if we wanted to, we could have students work through them here as well.
What is a guided note?
So a guided note is, I give students a note taker that allows them to fill in information as I'm going, allow them to put the examples in a place where it's logical, so it teaches them how to take notes.
Is this like on a Chromebook or this is like pen and paper?
No, this is pen and paper.
Okay.
So I do give them hand notes that they take.
Yeah.
I also, myself, I upload my notes to Google Classroom, so if a student's absent, they have access to the notes.
Mhm.
And so these examples are part of our notes as well.
So you wrote, like, that was that example, like something you?
No, this
you did?
example is
Okay.
from McGraw-Hill. We used
Okay.
their example.
Okay.
So, which made it a lot easier for us to create the notes. And the students really like them. And the notes are not for credit, but they do take them. I would say probably 95% of my students do use the note takers and take notes. When we do formatives, in the math department, formatives are, they're allowed to use their notes. On summatives, they're allowed a note card. Because in formatives, they're still learning. So then we can do exit tickets. We can assign the practice online. We can download the practice, which I have done, and I can space it out and limit the number of problems, so they have a paper assignment. So I do that sometimes. And then down here, this personal tutors, this is gonna pop up on the student edition as well. So they can go in here and watch a tutorial on what we're learning. And you can see it says it's visible to students. I don't have to assign that. They automatically have it. And then this is the spiral review that I assigned today. And again, what I like about it is that it will indicate to me if I have a student who's really struggling. And on top of that, they do get a couple of chances to answer the question because it is formative and they are learning. So we want them to be able to look at what they're doing and say, oh, here's my mistake, and work from there. So that is a lot of what we use on the teaching side. We do also, I can't look up there and do it. I have to look down here and do it. Let's see if I go back to this. I am just under the module expressions. We have online reviews that we have, where is it? There's this, the module review, where students can do a review online. They can also do it, we can print it out. There's vocabulary that we can test them on. There's performance tasks, which we're hoping to implement some of these this year. Last year was really a learning year with this whole program. And then we have different test forms that we can download, adjust, and print. And not only do we have the first level, but we have a differentiated level for struggling students. And then we have a differentiated level for beyond students. So we have a lot of access to ways that we can assess students as well. At this point, I want to show you a student and what it looks like for them.
It's letter C.
So I'd like to move, we go into non-public RSA
91A.
91A dash, a semicolon 3, Roman numeral 2C.
If you have
Alright.
any other questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Yes, no,
through
thank
email.
you so very
Thank you
much.
so much.
We
Thank you
really appreciate that.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you.
That was really well done.
That was extremely well done. So a quick overview of what happened in non-public was, we were able to go in, and see the student portion, of, exactly what the students see. And what they're able to access is exactly what they're able to have put in their hands in the book. The team is making sure that it is accessible to all the students right from their dashboard, right in their Google Classroom. So if parents want to get in and see the books, need help, figuring out the math, they can have the students log into their account and parents can get in and they can look at the book. Also, we've talked about, being able to check them out of the library if a parent wants a hard copy. I think that kind of sums up what we did in there. And I know you had a question.
Yeah, so, so that we have a 3-year free subscription, so what happens year 4?
So I think what Christine and I will have to do, and it wouldn't be for this year's budget, for next year, it would be for the following. We'll have to just look and see what the cost would be to renew the online portal and what you saw. I think the tools there are amazing. And I think, last year, I will tell you, the staff, they were treading water, trying to figure it out, to use the program. But the feedback after just the 1 year, they really liked it. They liked having the structure. They liked being able to go through a textbook. Okay, chapter 1, this, and now that they've done the UPD documents that now reflect the program and the textbook, I think it will be worth, after the end of this year, to really get some feedback on the online platform. I mean, we heard from Gretchen, but I think to get some qualitative and quantitative feedback from the whole department will be really important. And then we can look into what it would cost to renew the subscription. They usually do anywhere from 2 to 5 years at a time when you want to renew, with an online ebook and feature access. What I really liked about this, and thinking of some of our goals of improving the achievement, some of the other tools that I think they're all just starting to touch the surface on, the differentiated assignment ability where you can differentiate, the staff doesn't have to overthink it, the program really helps them to be able to differentiate for students.
We don't have to
challenge.
teach to the middle anymore. We can teach to each kid individually.
Right, and that program really does it, the online part of it does it for them. They don't have to try to, take the time themselves to say, okay, how would I need to put something together to hit this group of kids in my class, this group and that group. The system really helps them do that. I love the formative assessment pieces that she talked about, seeing where kids are at, what they need to be reteaching. So, and like I said, overall, the math department, the feedback has been very positive, and it's really given them a really tight-knit purpose. And I do think a lot of the teachers, most of them, and at least, remember, it's only Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 that we have these resources. So beyond that, the other courses you may not get as streamlined, and we're still working. I know we ordered some textbooks for pre-cal.
So I was wondering why I didn't see calculus or anything like that.
Yeah.
Is that not in Reveal, or it's Reveal has it, it's just a different?
So I'm trying to remember when this was reviewed originally, the textbook that they had reviewed for pre-calc, they wanted to keep for pre-calc and then for calculus, because it aligned better, I think, in the discussions, and this was a few years ago, because of the AP. So you're looking at the advanced placement test. The textbooks that they currently have aligned better to what the AP assessment and requirements were than what Reveal had to offer, if memory serves.
I think you're right,
That's why they went with something a little different, because that's where they would be taking those types of assessments, and the math department just felt that they'd like to keep what they had for pre-calc and calculus based on that.
And align with the college board.
Correct.
Because theoretically, if a student's taking pre-calc their junior year, they're taking calculus, or if they're even beyond that and they're taking, if the goal for some of them is AP Calc in their senior year, we would want to have a resource that better fits into the
That
college
track.
board.
Right.
Right, so like you have to work backwards from what is the AP Calculus course according to the college board, and then what textbook then would make sense to have for regular calculus and pre-calc.
But Algebra 1, 2, and Geometry are required, so those are kind of the bulk of what we're
Exactly.
looking at.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm very interested. I very much like what I see, as a parent. I feel like I'd be able to really navigate that really well, with my student. I would just be curious. I agree with Maura, like we need to make sure that we can keep the online subscription.
Yeah.
Because
It would go in Jen's fiscal budget, not for this coming year, but for the following year.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that these books do get into the classrooms, because, not for nothing, we spent a lot of money buying these textbooks.
and
So it would be nice for them to be able to put their hands on them, because online is great, but sometimes it's nice to just have paper in front of you. So it would be nice if that was like, okay, everybody grab a textbook and let's open this up.
And I have seen that.
Yeah.
Last year and this year,
Yeah.
walking into classrooms, the kids have the books open.
Any
so.
spring breaks we can give them during the day is a huge benefit.
Yes, absolutely.
So I would
So,
like to see that.
Are they gonna use the same book, like Johnny in period 1 is getting this physical book, and then
Goes back on the shelf.
Karen is getting this book in
Right.
period 2?
Right.
Okay, so we don't really need as many.
Right, so we wouldn't use many.
Right, yeah,
Right.
okay.
But it's nice that we have them. Again, if a parent wants to bring a book home, then we have them that they can be checked out to bring home on a case by case for students who would prefer a book at home.
Right.
So we're not gonna deny a kid.
Right.
And I think we just need to tighten up like some of our book practices, and we can certainly, I can't do it, I don't think we could do it this week because homecoming is Saturday. But to
Obviously
your
not,
point, it
but-
does make sense to say,
Just accountability.
Yep.
If you want to be able to participate in these things, and I understand there are going to be some families that are going to come in and say, look, I just don't have that extra $130 right now. And that's where they work with you and they set something up. So the student isn't punished for, a family not being able to afford a book. Granted, they shouldn't have lost it in the first place, But, you know, there's, you know, you try to work with the families that are really struggling, and you're gonna know who's really struggling and who's trying to play the I'm struggling to just get out of it. And you're just gonna have to make a judgment, you know, case by case.
I do think though, like we should get some sort of covers because they're pretty beat up.
And that's from sitting in backpacks.
Yeah.
and
Right,
Just getting
right.
toted around.
Right, and I think I can look at some of my budget lines in the math department later on this year, depending on where things are at, and maybe, you know, we order some covers that can be, you know, given to people who have to take the books home, you know, so that we can help too, so it's just like, it's done to help us, like, you know, $1.50 for a cover now will save us $130.
I think a great thing to do is have kids bring in paper bags and teach them how to make book covers as an assignment.
Come in.
All right, we'll
John's
come in
gonna
and we'll
get
teach them.
teach,
We'll
so-
come in and we'll teach
I
them.
don't know if I'd have to like practice a couple times.
Oh my gosh, I could totally do it right now.
So are we, do
That's
we need
my
to
jam.
approve this, or we're just having a
I think
conversation?
this was just more for conversation
Okay.
because I think the math teams were asking for guidance on how to handle this. So this isn't like, you know, we're not gonna deliberate on this at the board level. This was just like, okay, what do you guys think? And I think, you know, based
I
on,
think they should move forward with
Yeah.
this. I think if they can follow Mrs. Solomon's lead and direction, I
Yeah.
think it will be really beneficial.
I
And
do.
we just need to make sure that we budget for the online.
Right.
subscription.
Absolutely.
The sooner we know.
Yeah, the sooner we know, and
When
then
are you
also,
budget, so what, will this be in the fall that you'll be budgeting?
Next year, yeah.
Or that's when you're
Yeah.
gonna be budgeting for?
Right,
right.
because we have, this is year 2,
Yeah.
because the books were new to us last year.
Right.
So this would be year 2, so next year we will still have all of
great,
this,
yeah,
but I
So
wanna
going
make
into year
sure.
yeah.
Right,
Okay,
going
great.
into the 4th year, and like I said, I think they have, last I looked at quotes and worked with people from McGraw-Hill, anywhere from 2-year to 5-year, we'll just have to
Mhm.
decide what makes the most sense. I
Like,
can-
what kind
I
of
can
a-
bring a few.
Do you have any ballpark figure of what that is?
So last time I was in the business of looking, I was looking for a SNU dual enrollment course, the online access similar through McGraw-Hill, and it was like $4,100 for, I think it was like 30 subscriptions.
And how many subscriptions would we need?
A lot, but they may.
So maybe
do-
like 20,000.
Yeah,
400 maybe?
I mean, I would say that might be the worst. It could only,
Yeah.
it might be only be 10. I have to look. It's been
Right.
years since I looked into that stuff.
Saying $20,000 to $30,000.
So,
Right. I was
But
just doing the
again-
math in my head, yeah.
but again, it could be that it's good for another 3 years. So then if
Right.
you break down the
Oh, that you
cost,
pay, oh, okay, so that it might be, it's not each year, it's.
no, right. it would
Right,
just
it's
be-
for that
Oh.
term.
And what's nice with the companies is they will do, like, if you're doing this for a longer subscription, they will give you a discount
Yeah.
Right,
on things, so the longer we do a subscription for,
Yep.
the cheaper it will be long
Yeah.
term.
and so now, do these subscriptions, as they make updates, does it automatically update
Yes.
online? Okay,
It
so at
does.
some point, these books are not going to match.
Correct.
Okay,
So that could.
so then
become a
I think,
potential issue, but-
so I think what we should also look at when we're pricing, I think we should also look at, okay, if we do, 3 to 5 year subscription, depending on pricing, I think we should look at that type of, longevity. What would it be to buy, say, 25 to 30 books in each
Right.
subject to
Gotcha.
keep in the
The
classroom?
updated version.
The updated
Right.
versions to keep in the classroom to help support.
Because if you make, I can see it becoming a mess,
Mhm.
personally. If
Yeah.
I'm a student and it's not matching up, you're gonna make me
It's
do
gonna-
work to try to find out how to do my
Right,
work,
yeah.
I'm just not gonna
And
do
Right.
it.
they
yeah.
might, I mean, depending on the company, some companies, and McGraw-Hill's really good. So some companies will still offer the old version
Okay.
for a few years,
Right.
Okay.
not forever,
Okay.
but for
Right.
a
So
few
we may
years.
not
as
For
a
like
longer
the, so
update.
like for the term that you have your online subscription for, they might say, okay, well, this is the book you have, so we'll continue with this one for you, but at the end of the subscription,
Mhm.
we're gonna give you the updated
Updated
version,
version.
so you need the
Right.
updated
And it just
books.
depends on where they're at with their updating textbook cycles,
Right,
right?
right.
So, I mean,
Oh.
I know, hopefully we'll have a
Only 15
situation
minutes
where,
left.
Oh, boy.
we can get the same the same version.
Okay, so we have a lot to do in 15 minutes.
That's
Sorry,
okay,
we,
if we don't get to some stuff, it's okay, but I want to make sure
Okay.
we get to the middle school. stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
felt Matt's been with us
then,
for a
yep,
while.
then let's go to, science. Is it algebra 1 or science pilot, which,
We can do
which
the
do you wanna
algebra
do?
one,
Okay,
definitely, just because
perfect.
we wanna
Thanks, Jen.
get this in
Yeah,
place
thank
so it's
you.
rolling
Thank you.
for the following year.
Great.
Okay.
Algebra 1 right here.
Oh,
Yeah, I can pass them out.
sure. That's the one that, that was from the spring, right?
I just printed this today, but it's okay. So this is some of the updates that we went through last spring with EISA, and this is for middle school accelerated math and algebra 1 in grade 8. It might not have all of the notes, because I know you met with the math department today, but that's okay.
So some, I think, Dawn, you were the only one who saw this presentation.
Yes.
We saw two
Yes.
previous members of ISA
Yes.
committee, so.
Yeah.
And, yes, this was a draft that was presented, was it March or February?
March, I believe.
Okay,
I
yeah.
believe in March.
I think it
So
was
the
right
draft that
before.
was presented,
Yeah.
yeah, so, I mean, I've, since this draft's come out, we've had another round of placing kids in accelerated math and algebra 1, which, obviously gave us more feedback. I met with my math teachers today and got some notes on this.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
There's a lot of suggestions, so.
yeah.
I mean, I would say, the big thing, and I would say, like, big picture, what came out of my meeting with the math teachers, and I totally agree with them, is what's our philosophy? What's our purpose for this? Is it to prepare kids for algebra 1, which is probably gonna be more of a focus on your more gifted math students, or is it try to encourage as many kids as possible to choose an accelerated path? So then you're talking kids who are hardworking, motivated, diligent, so, because depending upon your approach, it can affect how much curriculum you get through.
I feel like it's a little bit, for me, it's a little bit of everything. Like we're challenging kids. We want kids to be challenged, but also we want to place kids where they're appropriately placed. Like, not every kid is ready for algebra 1 as a freshman. So like making sure that we're looking at it from that lens. Like I really like how we kind of have like different touch points on like what kids should be able to do depending on where they should go for their math from 6th grade to freshman year. Because I think we want kids to be challenged, especially the kids that want to be challenged, and then the kids that they are being challenged, but maybe being challenged in a different way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I will add to this and say algebra 1 is not for all students. And it's not because they are not intelligent or gifted at mathematics. Algebra 1 lays the foundation for all other math courses at the high school.
Right.
If you don't have that solid foundation, things will start to crack and you won't have the skills necessary to get into pre-calc.
Right.
So we wanted to make sure, and I mean, we do have obviously accelerated math right now in grade 7, and then offering as an algebra 1 in grade 8. We wanted to tighten this up a little bit and really start tracking kids in grade 5 and looking at what does 6th grade math look like. And then this way, a few things. One, we want to communicate this to parents as something that would be taking place next year, but also some budgetary issues. So like the Orleans Hannah. Orleans Hannah measures algebra readiness, and it's an assessment. And it's through like Pearson, everybody, most school districts, Exeter, et cetera, use the Orleans Hannah to kind of say, okay, this is one of the huge like markers or ways that we measure, is a child ready to be in an algebra 1 class in 8th grade? So if we want to use that and kind of, we can continue obviously to go through drafts and get it to where the board is comfortable with it. But I think for purposes, for now, it's are we on the right path? And then if so, we want to make sure that we reflect that in Matt's budget moving ahead to make sure that we have the access within Alex to continue for those like algebra ready assessments, that we would have the Orleans Hannah. We will have Alex because it's part of our deal with Reveal.
Mhm.
But the Orleans Hannah test, we would have to purchase.
Okay.
It's not expensive, but it's just something that we have to make sure that
Thank
we
you.
have for,
Budget.
it's not expensive at all. But it's literally like, open your textbook, like kind of stuff.
And-
Right.
Yeah, and just so you know, like, for this year and actually the 3 years I've been here, for seventh grade accelerated and for eighth grade, algebra 1, it was based on really these criteria.
Correct.
The SAS, the kids get
Yep.
a 4, well, I'll back up, well, the SAS, the NEWA winter assessment, they actually use GPA as a marker too.
We
He's
don't
getting
really
it,
have a GPA.
no, not GPA, but, final grade in the course. math
Got it,
class.
yep.
And then the other one's the Alex assessment we're
Mm-hmm.
going to use this year, because Alex is actually really good. Actually, I can show you some, actually tells, this is one we did on a kid who, it actually says where they place. It tells you if they place into just a regular math class, or it'll say, you know, algebra,
Right.
like for algebra readiness, they're not. They're just a regular eighth grade math class. So it's a very useful assessment tool, this Alex program.
And I think it would be important for parents, because I think there's a lot of parents that like, they don't know, like, they hear about these classes,
Yeah.
but they don't know like how like, they don't know the process. Like it
Right.
seems like a lot of parents feel like, oh, the math teacher likes them, so they move them up. Like they don't understand like
The process.
the
That's a
process.
good
Like I know
point.
it's not, but they don't understand the
To your
process.
point, we removed the subjectivity of the math teacher's recommendation, because that's where that subjectivity can come in. It doesn't matter. Try to base it on data.
Yeah.
The 4 data points I just mentioned, we were shooting for at least 2 out of the 4. You know, but that's what we've been doing this year. I'm not saying with new criteria, but again, it's the 3rd year I've been here. The first 2 years, I had 0 questions. This year I had a lot of questions from parents. This is why getting a criteria in place that you all support would be good. And we can also have, you know, let the community know what it is. Because the other thing is, we also don't want to put all this pressure on kids and say, well, you have to get a 4 on the SAS. If you don't get a 4 on the SAS, you're not in algebra 1. I mean, but then we also want them to
yes.
know they have to take it seriously too. So it's this,
And I would say if we're going to really use 2 solid markers, it would be the Alex and it would be like the Orleans Hannah if we're talking about algebra 1.
yeah. Actually, my team was saying if we went with 4,
Yep.
they would recommend at least 3.
Correct.
Yeah. So yeah.
NEWA, I have to say, because we do not take the NEWA in the spring, because we have it because those students also take the NHSAS.
Right.
So we just thought it would be too much. So that's really old data from the kids taken in January.
Right.
Yeah,
So if we're gonna get rid of something that would be like, hey, you know what, you didn't do so well in January, but you have all the
You're
markers
crushing
and
it
algebra
now.
readiness.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of want to weigh certain tests, certain assessments, like with what the Alex shows, we could give that to a parent and say, this is
Yeah.
exactly the
Right.
path of math that your child needs to be in right now.
Yeah, 'cause
so
like-
they can be ready to excel with X.
and I think as a parent, I would have loved to get some sort of printout like that, being like,
Yes.
this is where your kid is and where they should be.
And that's what we feel too in our discussions. We had the math teachers at the middle school join us last spring after the feedback, the original draft from EISA. And we're just trying to tighten things up, making sure it's communicated in a timely fashion so families understand when they enter middle school or when they're in 5th grade, what this would actually look like during their entire like middle school journey.
Mhm.
So then they would know, and it would also offer more insight for families than just seeing a score on something through like NEWA and SAS versus what Alex can really give, which is a lot of wonderful information on their
So,
student as a learner.
so it looks like we have like 3 touch points if we're not gonna have the NEWA. We'd have the Alex, the end of year, and the New Hampshire SAS. And then for the 7th graders, the other one, the Orleans Hannah.
Yes, when they would go into 8th grade, correct, yes.
Okay. I mean, I think this is great. I think it's got data points. I think it is well laid out, and I think it's got you know, what, I mean, obviously I couldn't read that far away, but I
Yeah.
could see the,
Well,
like, I could
right.
see the flow
Yeah.
for the, of the Alex.
Oh, that, yeah.
Yeah, like it,
Yeah.
I think that would be something that a parent could easily understand.
And learn to, I think it's, as a parent, you wanna make sure you're helping your child. Like, what is my child doing really well in this subject? And then where can I help support? And I think it does that, and it kind of shows your child does this really well, but they're not here yet, which is why we're not, recommending this class.
Yeah, like I think, like, I've had some parents come up to me saying, like, my kid made all A's and they weren't in honors, they didn't make accelerated math, like, what, like, so I think
Right.
this could, like, knowing what the touch points are would be important for kids.
And I think for parents to know that Algebra 1 is not an 8th grade level class.
Right.
So when you're getting all A's in 7th grade, math, like traditional math, not the accelerated, but the traditional math class, you're technically skipping a year of math.
Mm.
Because when you look at the way that the math, like competencies and goals are set, pre-algebra is kind of almost broken up into 2 years.
Yeah,
The accelerated in 7th grade almost takes all of pre-algebra and chunks it into 1 year. That's why it has to move faster. And then they can go into Algebra 1,
Right.
which is really a freshman class.
Mhm.
Right. And that's where my question, the same question I had before, is if you're doing Algebra 1 that mirrors the Algebra 1 high school class, do they get high school credit for it?
And that's where I
That
think
can
we need
carry
to go
over.
next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know there are, and I'm sure it's not the majority, but there are some students that are on an accelerated math trajectory that once they get into high school and they determine where they're really going career-wise, they don't need all those pre-calcs, calcs, AP calc, all of that.
Right.
So it frees up, and I know Heidi was concerned about, freeing up and not having them take an extra math in high school because she didn't want, less stuff for them to have to take so that they had too much free time. But with the way we have our schedule now, there isn't a lot of extra time. So if somebody was to take an Algebra 1 in middle school and didn't need that extra math in high school, was going a different trajectory, it would allow them the flexibility to focus on something that they're really more passionate about without having to take that math class just to fit the criteria.
So
But they've
they-
already taken it in 8th grade, they get middle school and high school.
that
credit.
was my question. when they get
Kind of
middle
like a
school and-
dual enrollment for college, where you're in high school, but you're taking a Northern Essex course or a SNU course, you get high school credit and college credit.
I mean, I love that idea.
So that's my question. And it's not going to be the majority of the students, but I know that there are some out there that have had that issue and have struggled with pre-calc and calc because they know they don't need it. It's not the trajectory they're on anymore, but they have to take it because they're required to take another math class. You know what I mean? So it's making sure that we account for the trajectory switch that
Yeah.
sometimes happens with kids.
Yeah.
I remember we had that conversation in the winter, and
Yeah.
I remember saying, if they couldn't earn credit for their 8th grade Algebra 1, we'd have to have alternatives.
Right.
Something, it could be, I don't know, you earn math credit through some kind of a vocational class or something.
Right.
Because you're applying math. to something.
Yes.
But you
Yeah.
just can't be on this track where you're forced to be in calculus as a senior.
Exactly.
That would
Everybody might not
That
want
would be my worst.
Well,
nightmare.
and that, I know that's happened.
Yeah.
There was no workaround.
Right.
For that student. And so you feel bad for that student because they had great intentions. They were on this great trajectory, but it's not where their passions are anymore. And when you don't need that for your passion and you really want to be able to focus in more on what you're looking to do outside of school, it's tough to say, sorry, you can't do that. You have to take this.
Right, and I think that's where we're gonna go next, and why we want to bring this so early.
Yeah.
Is to spend some time looking at what would this look like and meeting with the high school and trying to
Yeah.
figure this part out.
Mhm.
And then that's our last step, is to bring that to you.
Right.
Okay.
That would be
So
awesome.
can I make one comment? I'm gonna kind of disagree with the not having teacher feedback.
Okay?
And if there's not gonna be teacher feedback, if that's not gonna be a requirement, I think
there needs to be communication. So let's say a kid is like doing really well in math, they're in 5th grade, but it's obvious that this kid doesn't do homework or something, like,
Right.
there needs to be a conversation of,
So maybe,
your kid might meet these, but if your kid's gonna wanna be in it, there's going to be this expectation that there's going to be more homework, so I just,
so maybe a
it doesn't necessarily have to be a
WSP
requirement, but I think it.
grade is a requirement. Could that be how we get rid of the
Well,
subjectivity?
I don't think it's necessarily, I just want there to be, I think that I think the teacher does have good, valuable feedback.
Right.
And I think it could go one way or the
Yes.
other. I understand what we're trying to avoid happen,
Yes.
but there's a lot of merit to what a teacher sees, so
Yeah.
I think it, I
if we
think it
need to
can
take
be,
it out of the strict rules, fine, but I
Yeah.
think that it needs to be considered.
I think
what a
it
teacher
can be a touch point, but it doesn't weigh as heavy, right?
thinks.
And you
Yes,
can-
Because I
yes.
agree with you, like, there's
Yeah.
plenty of kids that are super smart and just don't do homework.
Right.
right,
They're just
and
not
that's
gonna
gonna
put in
catch
the
up to
work.
them.
Well, right,
Yeah.
right, and
Yes.
I think, so I like that, I think maybe it can be something that, teacher input.
On work study practices, homework, meeting deadlines, and those are data points that can be pulled out and backed up.
Yeah, we could-
So if
we
the
could do it
teacher
that
is giving
way.
the feedback, but then they also have data points to back themselves up,
But if a
which is
parent knows
helpful.
too ahead of time,
Mhm.
like, this is something my kid needs to be doing, so if I
Yeah.
want my kid in accelerated math,
They have to do their homework. They
then
have
we're
to
gonna
keep
need,
stuff
and
on
maybe it's the
time.
end of the year, and maybe, that, I don't think that should necessarily exclude them,
Mhm.
but the parent should be aware, this is going to be, if your child's going, this is gonna be the expectation.
Right.
And
That's
we
all.
can, no, actually, we could spell it out.
Right.
Like, this is what the expectation for this class would look like, X amount of minutes of homework. This is accelerated, this is cramming 2 years of math into one.
Right.
So we could do all
Yeah.
that stuff too.
And I think if that gets sent out, to all the incoming 6th grade families, to let them know, hey, this is what we're gonna be looking for in your student's 6th grade year. If they want to be on this accelerated track, these are the criteria that are, that are set at the moment. This is what we're gonna be looking for them entering into 7th grade. And I think that helps clarify for the students and the parents exactly what's being looked for. But I really do agree with your point on, like, you need to have students that are doing their homework, they're passing things in on time, and the teachers grading all of that. So that is the teacher input right there, and if you need more information, you can get more information from the teacher,
And it's
but they
something
have some nice data points to really back up why they do or don't think somebody belongs in a
So
program.
the teacher could chime in on meeting grade level expectations.
Right.
And under that would be things like homework, et cetera, et
Yep.
cetera. Okay, yeah.
I'll just say for the record, we've been focusing on 7th and 8th grade and not 6th grade accelerated. It was very clear with my team, and I've never taught 6th grade, I taught 7th and 8th, but mostly high school. They don't think it's appropriate to have 6th grade accelerated math developmentally and other, I give you a whole laundry list of reasons. Kids' inability to think abstractly, different things. The math curriculum in 6th grade is different than 7th and 8th, but so we mostly focus on 7th and 8th grade. But again, the math teachers felt pretty strongly that accelerated should begin in 7th grade, but if we want to have a conversation, I think we should have another conversation about 6th grade accelerated, if you want to,
We could
consider it, but
Spell out what that
my
looks
team
like.
felt pretty strongly against it. But
We could spell out what that looks like, or is it more something where it's leveled and not necessarily like truly accelerated? We could do some different options and look at that for you.
Again, I didn't want to open that can of worms now.
I know,
I
that's
realize it's
okay.
after 6.
I know, I'm getting text messages,
Sorry,
is the
guys.
live stream not working?
Just wanted you to know that we did consider it, and that's just feedback from the team.
Awesome.
I'm happy to continue the conversation.
We have to stop it too.
Yes, we have to, all right, so, thank you, sorry we did not get through everything, there was a lot.
It was a big agenda.
It was a very big
Well,
agenda, so
yeah,
we'll
we didn't-
finish next time,
We're 10 minutes away.
but the, meeting is now adjourned.